Welcome to 1 Minute Theatre Reviews. I'm Paul Seven Lewis, and after 5 months of lockdown, I'm here to see some live theatre. This is the Bridge Theatre, and I'll be reviewing Ralph Fiennes in Beat the Devil by David Hare. After 5 months of being deprived of live theatre, I say all hail the Bridge Theatre for being, as far as I'm aware, the first to put on an indoor show. And how wonderful I thought not only to see Ralph Fiennes in the flesh, but also to get away from the pandemic. Except David Hare's play, Beat the Devil, is about the pandemic. Sir David caught the virus just before lockdown and was seriously ill with it. In this monologue, through the medium of Ralph Fiennes, he talks about the progress of his illness and, in parallel, the actions of the government. As the virus went mad, so did the government, he says, always to that effect. We're all too familiar with the failings of our leaders in this crisis, but it didn't harm to be reminded of them. And he does tell both stories with righteous anger and a pleasing wit. On the personal level, he describes his puzzled response to eating his signature dish that tastes so much like sewage that he feels he must have made a mistake in the cooking. Or about the description of the government as mediocre, which he says does violence to the word mediocre. Of course, if you think this government has handled the crisis well, or at least no worse than any other government, I realise the polemic may lose some of its impact, but it's still fun. It greatly helps that the rhymes trip off Ralph Fiennes' tongue so naturally, just as if he's having a conversation with us, albeit a conversation powered by anger and bemusement. Bunny Christie's set is admirably simple but effective, being appropriately a desk placed centre stage, which gives Mr. Fiennes, as the writer, something to move round or sit at, under the direction of the incomparable Nicholas Hytner. Well, that's my 1 minute review. Keep watching for more about Beat the Devil at the Bridge Theatre. David Hare has been writing plays, usually political, usually polemical, for 50 years. And by comparison with his best, Plenty, Skylight, Pravda, The Absence of War, this 50-minute memoir may seem slight. It's fair to say that the public story of the pandemic will be familiar to anyone who follows the news. But Sir David's ability as a writer is undiminished. He can still coin a phrase. It's a sort of dirty bomb thrown into the body, he says. Or to be wryly detached in his descriptions of his illness, thereby enabling us to see for ourselves the horror of it. Or, all the more startling for that reason, to let out pent-up anger. I don't have survivor's guilt, he says, I have survivor's rage. He concludes that what we need is truth. It seems incredibly potent in its simplicity. Naturally, because he was isolated during his illness, there's no room for the renewed sense of community that many of us found during lockdown. But there is a touching moment of love when he describes how his wife selflessly lay on him to keep him warm. And if anyone doubted the need for the bridge's precautions, the vivid description of the disease would surely change their mind. Talking of which, I understand you might still be hesitant to go to an indoor performance, but let me tell you, the safety measures taken by the Bridge Theatre were exemplary. From the controlled entrance, to the thermal imaging, to the one-way system, to having to wear a face mask throughout the visit, to the spaced-out seats. I felt totally safe. And what was interesting, the way the spacing had been managed, which you can see here, the less than 1/3 capacity audience still produced the atmosphere of a much fuller house. I give David Hare's Beat the Devil, starring Ralph Fiennes at the Bridge Theatre, 4 stars. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please subscribe to 1 Minute Theatre Reviews and you'll be the first to know about my next review. You can read my reviews and other theatre ramblings on my website, 1minutetheatreReviews.co.uk. And no, they're not 1 minute either. And if you think I have the perfect face for radio, Tune in to mixcloud.com to hear my box office radio podcasts on the history of the stage musical. Thank you for watching.